Welcome to Soul Sessions with Michelle. I'm Michelle Durand, and my co-host Tracey Swainson are so excited to have you back. This isn't an exciting topic to talk about, but we welcome you back to the series Soul Sessions. Today we're going to be talking about shame. And I'm going to let Tracey just open us up a little bit about what shame is and what we're going to talk about in this video. So Tracey?
Hi, thank you, Michelle. So it's time that we break the silence. We posted on our little frame for our soul sessions that what we're talking about here is pregnancy loss and abortion, but we're also talking about taboos, truth, and peace after pregnancy loss. And breaking the taboo of what I feel for miscarriage, and I'm sure, Michelle, you probably feel the same with abortion, is the silence that we hold back on our stories and what has happened to us, our experiences, for fear of judgment of ourselves, judgment of our experience, and judgment of what family, friends, coworkers, the church, whatever it is, whoever we associate with, we all have fear of judgment. And I think that is something that really holds us back and keeps us in the story of shame. And it's time that we break the silence of shame and begin sharing our stories. So the shame will go away. I heard this quote this morning: the shame will go away when the silence is broken. And this is exactly what you and I are doing here in our soul sessions. It's breaking the silence of the shame and the guilt, the fear, everything that is associated with pregnancy loss, all of our feelings and all of our emotions. It really stirs up a sense of having to keep things secret. And I think that is beginning to change in society. And we want to continue with that. And we're continuing that with sharing our stories of pregnancy loss, abortion, miscarriage, and whatever else might come up in between. And for myself, my story of shame came up with 5 miscarriages. And I felt alone in that. I didn't know how to acknowledge my loss. I didn't know how to honor my loss. Back in my day, I didn't have the internet. And so where we have all the availability today, even still, there's a silence around abortion and around miscarriage. And it's time for that to end. And what do you feel, Michelle? How are you feeling with breaking the silence of shame?
Well, I do not like the word shame because I feel like people is used to keep people in a trap. And it prevents women and men from becoming healed because they feel ashamed, and they're so ashamed that they keep it secret, they keep it in the dark. But the thing about shame is that when it's in the dark, when it's by itself, it grows like a disease. And if we don't get to the root of the problem, so let's say it's abortion or a miscarriage in our past, and we don't get to the root of that, and then that shame is there, but it's just never been dealt with, never been brought to the surface, it manifests itself in so many other ways. And I know with women who've had abortions, they carry a lot of shame. I think that is probably the most used word that I hear, that they're so ashamed of what they've done and they don't want anybody to know. And that keeps the shame cycle. But the truth is that it's not who you are. Like the things that we've been through and the decisions that we made, they're not who we are. So I really would like us to make it clear that shame is not about it's not who you are. You could be ashamed of something that you've done, but shame should not last long. So if anyone has been ashamed for a long time, it's time to realize that you don't have to stay in shame. So I think that so many women who've had miscarriages and abortion stay in that shame cycle. Do you find that to be true as well, Tracey? Is that what's holding women back from becoming healed, feeling that?
I really do. I feel like what holds women who have experienced miscarriage in that cycle of shame is the fact that they're fearful of speaking of it.
Mm-hmm.
And why is that? For me, it was, there were so many different things.
Mm-hmm.
For me, for one, I felt like my body had failed me.
Mm-hmm.
For two, I felt like I had failed my husband because I wasn't able to give him a child. And with that comes the sense of failure that the family line within our relationship is done. It's cut off. There's no more of our family name moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Added to that is having to tell our parents, his parents and my parents, that they wouldn't be grandparents through our relationship. Now they do have other grandchildren through their other children, but for us, having to face them and tell them that we wouldn't be having children, that was so hard for me to do. And maybe others don't feel that way, but this is my personal experience. But I have spoken to other women who have felt the same way, who were not able to go on to have children of their own. That's the end of the family line. And all of that holds you in shame until you're actually able to speak of your story. And hopefully you are welcomed and embraced and shown love through all that, shown compassion. And then that's where the cycle of shame will end. But if you hold on to it, that's where you are kept in that cycle, and it needs to end.
I would like to bring up the fact that a lot of women who've had abortions, and men, a lot of the reason that they stay in shame is because, and the reason that they get into shame is because of society. It's because of the taboo. I mean, they hear the news, they see what's going on. I mean, they see the protesters and they read the signs. And when you read those signs, I mean, how can you not be filled with shame? I was so filled with shame if I'd read a sign and I'd see the news about abortion when I knew in my own heart that I'd been through an abortion, and those around me did not know. And so it even caused more shame because I was alone in my feelings of shame. And what I want to bring up is that, at the beginning we look joyful and we're happy because inside Tracey and I have been through years and years and years of pain and crying and turmoil. Like whatever you going through, we've been through that. And we now have been healed, so we can come out and speak about it without crying and without, being so sad. But we realize that so many women have not been able to do that, as Tracey was sharing, until they're able to break that silence and tell someone safely that they've been through this experience. It's bothering them, it's torturing them, and they need help. And so we're living proof that you don't have to stay in that cycle of shame. And so, Tracey, do you have something set up for women who've been through miscarriages to know that they're not alone and that they can find support with other women who are also going through miscarriages?
I absolutely do. I have a Facebook community, and it's called Peace After Pregnancy Loss. It is a closed group, and so to enter that space, there are 3 questions that you have to ask, because I want to make sure that this is a very safe and sacred space for us to start having brave conversations and sharing where we're at. And so that within this space, you can begin to open up in a space where everybody else has been there too. And by answering these 3 questions, it's ensuring that you're going to be in a very safe and sacred space, as well as the other women that are already there. We want to make sure that everybody feels comfortable to start beginning to have those brave conversations. And if you can begin to have your conversation within a group of women who have already experienced pregnancy loss, miscarriage, stillborn, the birth of an unborn baby, then it gives you the strength and the courage to slowly begin to open up to other people. And as we begin to do that, that's where we break the silence.
So true.
What about you, Michelle? I know you have a group as well.
Yes, I do have a group as well called Tears to Treasures. Facebook group. And actually both of our Facebook group link is at the top of the video channel cover. You can click there and it'll take you directly to the Facebook group. So I really encourage you to do that. Take that first step. It is non-judgmental. You know, everyone in there has been through the same thing. So like, they're not going to feel the need to judge anyone else because they're in the same shoes. So I feel like it's such a safe environment for these women. I know they feel heard, they feel safe, they feel protected. And it's the first time that they're able to express what they're feeling. And know that they're not going to be attacked, and they're not going to be called names, and they're not going to be given advice of things that they should do. It's a place for them to just be and just feel and be able to express their emotions. And we are very, very honored to be, have the admin of these groups for these women and hold this sacred space for their souls to heal and arise. And what comes to my mind is the author Brene Brown. And Tracey and I, as we prepare for these videos each week, we each do our own work on our own, which we do this work anyway for our women. So as we're studying shame, we're like, who else but Miss Brene Brown to bring into this conversation? So with that being said, tell me what you know about Brene Brown, Tracey?
I love that we came forward not knowing that we were both going to be bringing forward something that would represent Miss Brene Brown. She is an author and teacher, writer, professor, and her life's work is dedicated to the study of shame and courage and vulnerability. And so, and coming forward, we both chose a book in which we would begin our conversation with, not knowing that we were both choosing the exact same book, The Gifts of Imperfection. So, so I love this quote. I was doing some research and just going back to remembering what it felt like to feel shame. And I love this quote of Brene's, and it's, shame is the intensely painful feeling or experience of believing that we are flawed and therefore unworthy of acceptance and belonging. And that's really what shame does. It keeps you, like Michelle said, it keeps you in a box. And it keeps you feeling like you are unworthy. I remember those feelings myself, and it kept me from sharing my story for way, way, way too long. And when I finally did, it slowly began to break down the walls that I had built up around me because of shame, because I felt unworthy as a woman. A lot of my unworthiness came because of the feelings of shame that I had mentioned earlier, that my body had failed me. I had failed my husband. I had failed my parents and my in-laws. And what kind of woman cannot carry a baby? I didn't know that it was something that so many, 1 in 4 pregnancies end in miscarriage. At the time of my experience, I didn't know this. And it really held me back and kept me in that box of shame. And so I love this quote, believing that we are flawed and therefore unworthy of acceptance and belonging. And our conversation today about shame is to help begin to break down those walls, those barriers, because we are all worthy of belonging, worthy of acceptance, and just knowing that this is an experience that changes our lives, but it can change us for the better. And there are gifts in the grief that we experience. And those are other topics that we're going to be carrying on in the future. Michelle, what was your quote that you found?
Quote all of them. Oh my gosh, I love every single bit of this book. But I also highlighted a few things, and I really want to bring up, it says, shame is basically the fear of being unlovable. It's the total opposite of owning our story and feeling worthy. And that kind of sums up what you were just saying. But I like that she has shame resilience tips. So, I mean, about shame, here are 3 things to know about shame. Number 1, we all have it.
Yeah.
And number 2, we're all afraid to talk about shame. Number 3, the less we talk about shame, the more control it has over our lives.
So true.
And that is part of, I mean, that's like huge. This is why, I have one more thing I'm going to read before we wrap this up, but this is why we're talking about this. This is the reason. And she also says, shame is that warm feeling that washes over us, making us feel small, flawed, and never good enough. If we want to develop shame resilience, the ability to recognize shame and move through it while maintaining our worthiness and authenticity, then we have to talk about why shame happens. Honest conversations about shame can change the way we live, love, parent, huge, work, and build relationships. That's why we're here. That's why we do what we do. Yeah. So that women don't have, and men do not have to stay in shame.
Exactly. And I love the fact that you brought up men. This is a couple times you brought this up, and this is what we're wanting to include as well. Our conversations are not only for women, but they are for our partners, husbands, that are a part of the healing process as well as part of our loss. So we want to recognize that men have these feelings as well in many different ways. And even though men don't grieve maybe in the same way as we do, as women, we tend to be very expressive with our grief. So if we're grieving, usually everybody around us knows it in some form or another, whereas the men in our lives tend to want to find solutions to a problem. They want to fix it, or they want to be the strong one for us. And so they may not show their emotion in the same manner. They might get themselves busy with work or with other projects. And so we might take it as thinking that they're not grieving the way we are. And they're not. They grieve differently than us. But we do want to honor the experience of the men in our lives and how they feel in this experience as well.
That is a good point. Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, men have told me over and over and over again, we are forgotten about. No one talks about men. No one includes the men, but I always include the men because I didn't include the man when I chose to have an abortion. I excluded him. So I lived with a lot of shame and guilt for that. So I had to heal that. I had to work through that. I had to, I've talked to him and we've talked about it, and I've encouraged, and he's healed so much as well. And he has forgiven me, but I didn't need him to forgive me in order to forgive myself. Thank God, because not every woman is able to have forgiveness, but we still have to forgive ourselves. So, I just want to share that we realize that men are hurting also. And if you're a man and you're watching this video, yes, we're women, yes, we're mostly talking to women, but we're speaking to the men too. So if you're a man and you've never heard that men are affected by abortion, yes they are. Men are affected by miscarriage, yes they are. Then we want you to know that you don't have to stay in shame either, or guilt, or regret, or any pain from either of those experiences, even if you've been in multiple. Because some men have had women who've had abortions, they've had women who've had miscarriages, they find themselves going through many experiences. And exactly. Go ahead, Tracey. Yeah, sorry.
No, keep going. You're doing good.
And I just would like to take this moment right here to call out to the men. I am offering, during this holiday season, I'm offering one-on-one sessions, complimentary sessions for women and for men. So I wanted to bring that up this week because it's been on my heart. I've been getting emails and messages from men as well. And I've always helped men, like not always. I started helping men a few years back. So it is something that I've done before. And I am offering one-on-one complimentary sessions with men to just help see where they're at, give them information, help them on their path of their journey of healing from abortion. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that at the end, but I just wanted to say that to the men.
That's really good, Michelle. That's really good. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So, yeah, we just want to reach out, and by having this conversation today, we are opening the door. We welcome your comments. We would love to hear from you. If you have any, maybe if you want to message us privately, if you're not ready to speak openly, or to text us. But please reach out to us. We would love to hear from you. And like Michelle said, you can contact us through our Facebook groups, which are at the top of this page. And we are open to welcoming you into our groups. You'll find that Michelle and I are both admins in both of our groups, so that we are supporting each other and supporting you in whatever your experience is. And we really welcome you. We would love to hear from you. If you have any comments, any questions, or maybe even a topic that you would like us to share or talk about on the upcoming episodes, we would really love to hear from you. And yes, for the remainder of the holiday season, this month of December of 2018, Michelle and I are opening up space for soul sessions, where we will be offering an opportunity for you to share where you're at, and we will be sharing with you different ways in which we can support you. This is not a sales call. This is simply a support for the month of December. We're coming into the Christmas season, and so many parents are feeling the emptiness of the loss of their little ones, the broken hearts, maybe the shame of family, meeting with family over the Christmas and holiday season. We don't want you to have to be in that space. And so we're both opening up space. You can reach out to us through our groups, and we definitely welcome you. Michelle?
Yes, thank you for that. So again, the book that we were mentioning is called The Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown. And we highly recommend this book. If you've been through an abortion or miscarriage, definitely check out that book. You can get it on Amazon or any bookstore. And also, as Tracey said, that it is a gift. We are offering a gift because we are very, very aware that the holiday seasons is a very triggering time and for loss. And so we're offering this gift through the end of the year, complimentary sessions, as she explains. So again, check that out. Send us, go through the link to our Facebook group, and that's how you can schedule the one-on-one session. And so again, this week we were talking about shame. So our other video, we've talked about relief and denial. We've talked about some bargaining. We've talked about guilt. And then this week we've talked about shame. And next week, we just don't know. So I tell you what, send us your questions, send us your comments, send us emails, whatever. Get your heart out there and let us know what you're struggling with, and we will cover it next week or the week after. So let us know. We'd love to hear from you. Or if you yourself have been through miscarriage or abortion and you found healing and you want to share, feel free to join as well and help us support these women who are not yet strong enough and brave enough to share their story, but they want that hope and they want that inspiration. You know, what I hear from women often is, I want to hear from other women who've been through this, so I know that I can also find healing. So the more that they see, that's why we want to speak out. We want people to speak out, because if you've been healed, don't keep it to yourself. Let people know, because the girls who are suffering and the men who are suffering, like, they just stuff it because they feel so ashamed, like they're all alone. And so let's break the silence of shame and let's start talking about it, break the cycle of shame, and get healing happening.
That's awesome. So we look forward to seeing you next week here on Soul Sessions, and we wish you a beautiful week and healing all around.
Yes. Sending y'all love. Bye.